Right, moving on. Kלים, Perikut Beis, Mishnah Vav. Arba Dvarim Rabban Gamliel Metame B'Chachamim Metarin. This is a collection of Mishnahs. They're not all connected, but the reason why they're all together because there are 4 things in Mesechta Kלים which Rabban Gamliel is Metame and the Chachamim are Metair. The first one is Kisui Tini Shel Mateches Shel Balei Botim. I'm hoping that you are actually recognizing this because we had it 3 Mishnahs ago at the beginning of Perek Gimel, where it said that Kisui Tini Shel Mateches Shel Balei Botim, Rabban Gamliel Metame V'Chachamim Metarin. A quick recap: a Tini Shel Mateches Shel Balei Botim means a bowl hanging around, made out of metal, in a home, used for throwing in bits and pieces, clips and pens and what have you. We're dealing now with a kisu, with a lid. The general rule is that a lid made out of metal of a kli matches, a lid is not called a tashmish choshuv, and therefore a kisui generally is not makabel tumah, hence the Chachamim's view that it's toir. However, this lid is sometimes used, even when it's on the kli, people put something on there. They put a coin, they will sometimes use the lid. Either just put it on top of the lid, or the lid has a little compartment, a little receptacle, and they'll chuck things in there. But again, it's a very temporary usage. Rabban Gamliel's machmiri, so you go boss of the temporary usage, and therefore it's a davar choshuv, because it's used to put things in, and the Chachamim say primarily be'ikra it's a lid, and therefore under the normal rules, lids are tahor. That's the first machlokas which we've had. The second one is Teloi hamagredos. A magredes, in those days, they used to have public baths, and people used to go into the bath. They used to have a metal comb to scratch themselves with, or massage themselves with. That's called a magredes. The magredes was hung on a peg on the wall, on a little hook or peg. And therefore this peg is stuck to the wall. So again, the Chachamim's view that the peg, the toloi hamagredes, is tor, is very understandable because it's a classic case of a peg which is mechuber im hakarka. However, Rabban Gamliel's view that it's tomei is difficult to understand, and the Achronim and the Mefarshim actually struggle to find a reason why Rabban Gamliel is metame when seemingly we're dealing with a peg which is stuck to a wall, and of course then the peg should be tor. Tveres Yisrael says that we're dealing with a peg which is moved from one part of the wall to another part of the wall. It's constantly moved around, and therefore Rabban Gamliel holds this is not also lechaber im hakarka. It's difficult really to understand it. The Mishnah moves on to the third thing which Rabban Gamliel and the Chachamim argue, Gol me kli ma'atchos. This is a very fundamental machlokas. Every kli is makabel tumah when it's made, once it's finished being made. The question is what's called finished. Now, if it's a kli eitz is not a very important material. Wood is not a very important material. So as soon as you make the kli, even though you haven't actually done all the finishing touches, you still got to polish it. You still got to smooth it down. You still got to add a little bit of a handle or something. It's makabel tumah. However, matches being a more choshev, a more delicate material, the Chachamim hold if you got a gol mekli matches, that means you finished the ikr of the kli, but you've still got to do something to it. You've got to polish it, you've got to smooth it, you've got to add an ear or something, or add the rim. The Chachamim say, if you don't finish a kli matches, don't bring it all the way to final completion, it's still a kli which has not been made and therefore is tor. Rabban Gamliel holds that a gol mekli matches follows the rules in gol mekli eitz, and as soon as you finish the basic form and shape of the kli can now be used, although you've still got to do a few other bits to it, it's already a finished kli and is makabel tumah. And the last case is tavla shenechlek lishnayim. Here we're dealing with kli cheres actually, and of course the only reason why it's here is because it fits into the group of machlokas between Rabban Gamliel and the Chachamim. Now a kli cheres is a tray. Tavla is a tray with a rim, because the kli cheres to be makabel tumah, it must have a toich as we've learned before, and the toich must be also lekabel, which it is. Now, the tray, as long as it is complete and unbroken, of course, is makabel tumah. Now it snaps. Tavla shenechel kol hashnaim snaps into two. There's a lot of debate in the Mefarshim as to what this machlokes is all about. The Mefarshim, the Rishonim, compare this to a worldwide Shas Sugya of Efshel et Samtem and Efshel et Samtem. But it seems to the Chazon Ish that there's actually a simpler way of learning this Mishnah. If the Tavla breaks into two, one thing's for sure, which we'll see in the Sefer of the Mishnah, if the breakage is such that one piece is definitely much larger than the other piece, called a Rov HaNikar, then the larger piece is definitely Tomei. Although you haven't got a rim around all four sides, that doesn't matter with Kli Cheres. With the Kli Cheres, the main thing is it has a toich, which it has, and if it can still be used a little bit on the slant, or you can carry things on it so that things don't fall off, at least you've got protection on three sides, then under the rules of Kli Cheres, it's got a toich, and the toich can be used. Therefore, the larger one, the Rov HaNikar, L'chule Alma, is Tomei. The smaller piece, which is a Miut, L'chule Alma, is Tahor, which is the Sefer of the Mishnah, where it says, the Chachamim are Moida to Rabban Gamliel, in a case, Moidim Chachamim and Rabban Gamliel, the Tavlosh and Echel Kodesh Naim, and Echad Godel, Echad Kodesh, says the Chazon Ish means. It means one is a Rov HaNikar, one is definitely much larger than the other. Then Shagodel Tomei, the larger section is definitely Tomei. Vakotan Tor no Machloikas. We're dealing here when it breaks in such a way that it's difficult to tell which piece is bigger. You don't have a Rov HaNikar. So the Chachamim are Mekel. And they say, no, we're not being Machmir and say, well, you don't know which one's bigger, therefore let's be Machmir and say they're both Tomei. They say, in a case where you can't tell, there's no definite Rov, therefore it's not considered to be a whole Kli, and therefore both pieces are Tor. And Rabban Gamliel says, no, you don't know which one is bigger. It could be one is bigger than the other, and therefore you're Machmir and say both pieces are Makabel Tumah. Just like in the Sefer, when you have a Rov HaNikar, it's definitely the bigger piece that is still Makabel Tumah.